It was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime. A young woman, full of life and curiosity, traveled halfway across the world to do what she loved: explore the ocean and work with marine biologists on a remote stretch of the African coast. She was passionate, determined, and on the brink of a bright future. But just days before her return home to Australia, everything changed. Her body was discovered near a quiet beach in Mozambique, lifeless and surrounded by questions. What happened that night? Why were there so many conflicting stories? And how could a vibrant life be extinguished so suddenly, leaving a family to grapple with endless uncertainty? The story of Elly Warren is not just a tale of a mysterious death. It's a puzzle that has baffled investigators, angered her loved ones, and captured the attention of thousands who seek the truth. Was it an accident? A crime? Or something far more complicated? The answers remain elusive, but the questions demand to be asked. Stay with us as we explore every detail of her final days, the investigation that followed, and the unrelenting search for justice. And as you listen, ask yourself, what really happened to Elly Warren? If you have thoughts or theories, share them in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories that deserve to be heard. Elly Warren grew up in the quiet seaside suburb of Morjallok, nestled on the outskirts of Melbourne, Australia. Her childhood was one of simplicity, marked by long days spent near the water and a natural curiosity about the world around her. She was the type of person who seemed to have an innate connection with the ocean, finding peace and purpose in its vastness. As she grew older, her love for marine life became more than a hobby. It shaped her dreams. She attended Parkdale Secondary College, where her teachers and peers recognized her drive and dedication. Elly wasn't just interested in the typical teenage pursuits. She had a vision. Her sights were set on studying marine biology at James Cook University, a renowned institution in Queensland. She envisioned a future where she could contribute to the protection and understanding of the marine world, combining her love for the sea with her desire to make a difference. In 2016, she took a step closer to that dream. Elly joined a 6-week volunteering program in Mozambique with Africa Underwater, a research organization dedicated to marine conservation. This wasn't a casual decision. It was a leap into the unknown, traveling alone to a foreign country for a cause she was deeply passionate about. Her time in Mozambique was spent doing what she loved most: working alongside marine biologists to study the reefs off the coast of Tofo Beach. Each day began with the gentle lapping of waves against the shore as she boarded a boat to explore the underwater world. The vibrant reefs, teeming with life, were a testament to the beauty she sought to preserve. Elly stayed in a modest bungalow at Casaberry, a popular diving resort near the beach. Her days were filled with purpose, and her evenings offered moments of reflection. She was living her dream, immersing herself in the work she had longed to do, and making memories in a place far from home. Yet, as idyllic as her journey seemed, her time in Mozambique would take a turn no one could have foreseen. This young woman, so full of hope and ambition, was nearing the end of her 6-week program, eager to return home and continue her journey toward a bright future. But that return home would never happen. Elly Warren's final days in Mozambique were supposed to be a time of celebration and reflection. After 6 weeks of dedicated work with Africa Underwater, she had contributed to the study of marine life off the coast of Tofo Beach. Her mornings were spent on the water, venturing out to the vibrant coral reefs with a team of marine biologists. These reefs, bursting with color and teeming with life, were a symbol of the environment she had devoted herself to understanding and protecting. When the day's work was done, Elly returned to Casaberry, the diving resort where she stayed. The modest bungalow had become her temporary home, a place where she could rest and recount her adventures. It was here she had made connections, shared stories, and built a small community far from her home in Melbourne. As the program drew to a close, the team decided to mark the occasion. On the evening of November 8th, Elly joined a group of friends for a night out to celebrate their shared accomplishments. The mood was lighthearted, and there was an air of excitement. For Elly, it was a moment to enjoy the friendships she had formed and to savor the memories she had made during her time in Mozambique. What happened after that night remains shrouded in uncertainty. Witness accounts suggest that Elly was coherent and in good spirits. She was described as outgoing and curious, someone who naturally drew people in. As the night unfolded, she reportedly separated from the group, perhaps to get a drink or explore the surroundings. Her friends never saw her again. Adding to the mystery are the conflicting details about her accommodations. Some reports indicate that Elly may have checked into Wiani Periyengo, a nearby hostel, on Tuesday, November 8th. However, the manager of the hostel later stated that she never checked in, leaving behind a trail of confusion about her movements that evening. This uncertainty complicates the timeline of her final hours. Where did she go after leaving her friends? Did she encounter someone who led her into danger? These questions, combined with the discrepancies in reports about her whereabouts, create a cloud of ambiguity around her last moments. What is known is that by the morning of November 9th, Elly's lifeless body was discovered by a fisherman near a toilet block close to a street market in Tofo. The events leading up to this grim discovery are the missing pieces in a puzzle that continues to haunt her family and all who have followed her story. Every detail, every inconsistency, brings us closer to understanding what might have happened that night. But the truth remains elusive, buried under layers of conflicting accounts and unanswered questions. If you believe that no one should ever face a tragic and brutal end like Elly did, hit the subscribe button. Every voice matters in seeking justice for those who can no longer speak for themselves. The morning of November 9th, 2016, began like any other for the fishermen of Tofo Beach, Mozambique. The tide was low, the air heavy with the scent of the sea. As the day broke, one fisherman made a discovery that would alter the course of countless lives. Near a quiet toilet block close to the bustling street market, he found the lifeless body of a young woman lying face down. The woman was later identified as Elly Warren. The scene raised immediate questions. Her body appeared to have been abandoned in a location uncharacteristic of where someone would naturally end up after a night out. There were no signs of life around her, no belongings, no indications of where she had come from or how she had ended up there. Initial statements from the local police added to the growing confusion. Detective Juma Daudo, a spokesman for the Nhambane police, described the case as a sudden death. He stated that there were no visible signs of violence or assault on her body. According to him, there was no evidence to suggest rape, nor any indications of a struggle. These statements painted a picture of an unexplained but seemingly peaceful death. However, this version of events was quickly contested. Reports from Australian media told a starkly different story. They cited information from the Australian government and High Commission in South Africa, which suggested Elly had been raped and murdered. These reports fueled speculation and concern, casting doubt on the initial police findings. The inconsistencies between local police statements and Australian media reports left her family and friends in turmoil. How could two narratives about the same event differ so drastically? One claimed a sudden and unremarkable death, while the other pointed to a violent crime. Adding to the mystery was the lack of clarity surrounding the discovery itself. Was the toilet block the scene of her death, or was her body moved there afterward? If she had been assaulted, why was there no forensic evidence to support this? If her death was peaceful, why would a young woman, full of life and with no known medical conditions, suddenly pass away? These initial speculations became the foundation for a storm of questions. The details of the scene and the conflicting reports set the stage for a narrative that was anything but straightforward. For Elly's family, these discrepancies only deepened their grief and frustration. They were left with a haunting image of their daughter abandoned in a foreign land, surrounded by uncertainty and shadowed by doubt. Each piece of information, no matter how small, carried weight. The fisherman's discovery, the police's statements, and the media's reports formed a tangled web of facts and theories. But one thing was certain. The circumstances of Elly Warren's death would demand a deeper, more thorough investigation. What lay behind the contradictions, and who, if anyone, bore responsibility for her tragic fate? From the moment Elly Warren's death was discovered, the investigation into her case was plagued with inconsistencies and contradictions that would frustrate and bewilder all who sought the truth. These challenges not only hindered progress but also deepened the anguish of her family, who found themselves navigating an opaque and often disjointed process. Initially, Mozambican authorities provided little clarity. Detective Juma Dowdo's assertion that Elly's death was sudden and devoid of violence or rape raised immediate skepticism. The claim of no visible injuries or signs of assault did not align with the broader circumstances of her death. 6 months later, these doubts grew when the first formal police report emerged. It concluded that Elly had died from a drug overdose, despite toxicology reports revealing no trace of drugs in her system. This conclusion, unsupported by forensic evidence, appeared hasty and unsubstantiated, raising concerns about the integrity of the investigation. These contradictions fueled frustration for her grieving family. For Elly's mother, this was more than a personal loss. It was a fight for justice. She launched a petition on Change.org appealing directly to the Australian Prime Minister at the time, Scott Morrison. The plea was straightforward yet heart-wrenching. We ask Scott Morrison as Prime Minister of Australia to intervene in this case to put pressure on the Mozambique government to allow Australia to provide an investigation team to work with the Mozambique police to solve Elly's murder and give her some justice, she said. The petition struck a chord with thousands, quickly amassing over 36,000 signatures. Each signature represented a call for accountability, a demand that Elly's case not be reduced to a series of conflicting reports and unverified conclusions. Her family's efforts didn't stop there. Bill Shorten, then the leader of the opposition in Australia, added his voice to the growing chorus. He called for diplomatic action, urging the Australian government to step in and assist in unraveling the mystery surrounding Elly's death. His involvement underscored the significance of the case, turning it into a national issue and amplifying the pressure on both Australian and Mozambican authorities. Despite these efforts, the investigation faced numerous roadblocks. The lack of cooperation from Mozambican officials was a recurring theme. Critical information about the case remained unavailable or incomplete. Questions about whether local authorities had suspects or whether the case had stalled were met with silence. For Elly's family, this lack of transparency was a bitter pill to swallow. Her father, Paul Warren, expressed his deep disappointment with the Australian Federal Police, stating that their inability to intervene left families like his to fend for themselves. If a loved one dies suspiciously overseas, forget about the AFP and the Australian government, he lamented. They're not going to help you. You're on your own to run your own investigation, he said. These challenges painted a grim picture of the obstacles families face when seeking justice abroad. Elly's case became a sobering reminder of how jurisdictional boundaries and systemic failures can impede the pursuit of truth. For her loved ones, the inconsistencies in the case and the lack of progress were not just setbacks. They were a betrayal of justice and a denial of closure. The challenges surrounding Elly Warren's case were profound, but they also galvanized her family and supporters to persist. Their resolve to uncover the truth, despite the odds, became a testament to their love for Elly and their determination to ensure her story would not be forgotten. By 2018, nearly 2 years after Elly Warren's tragic death, her family's search for answers had hit repeated dead ends. Frustrated by the lack of progress from both Mozambican authorities and Australian officials, Elly's father, Paul Warren, took matters into his own hands. Determined to uncover the truth, he traveled to Mozambique with a team from 60 Minutes Australia to retrace his daughter's final steps. The journey to Tofo Beach was both an emotional and investigative mission. Armed with limited information and an unyielding determination, Paul began piecing together the fragments of Elly's story. Notices requesting information were posted, and within 24 hours, the team uncovered shocking new details. 2 witnesses came forward with claims that cast a dark shadow over the official narrative. They alleged that Elly had been assaulted and murdered, contradicting the early police statements of its sudden death. A photo of Elly's body, shown to Paul during the investigation, seemed to confirm their assertions. Her torn clothing and the unnatural position in which her body had been placed were troubling signs that foul play had occurred. Even more disturbing was the theory of police involvement in a cover-up. Witnesses described seeing Elly's body positioned as though in a Muslim prayer stance, a deliberate act, they suggested, to stage the scene and attribute her death to non-criminal causes. This act, they theorized, was an attempt by local authorities to dismiss the case as a drug overdose or accidental death, absolving them of any further investigation. These revelations deepened the family's pain, but also strengthened their resolve. They had come face to face with the possibility that the very institutions meant to provide justice had played a role in obscuring it. In 2023, the ongoing efforts to seek answers culminated in a Victorian coroner's inquest. This long-awaited hearing offered some insight but left many questions unanswered. The coroner, John Kane, ruled that Elly's death was caused by a significant amount of sand found in her lungs. This finding suggested that she may have died from asphyxiation, raising the possibility that she was buried or forced into the sand while still alive. Despite this discovery, the coroner stopped short of definitively ruling her death a murder. He stated that it was possible unknown assailants had contributed to her death and that she may have died elsewhere before her body was abandoned near the toilet block. The toxicology report confirmed that Elly had not consumed drugs, and witnesses attested to her being sober on the night of November 8th. For Paul Warren, the inquest offered little solace. Outside the courtroom, he expressed his disappointment with the lack of a definitive conclusion. To him, the evidence overwhelmingly pointed to murder, citing the torn clothing and suspicious circumstances surrounding her death. He voiced his frustration with the lack of action from Mozambican authorities and criticized the Australian Federal Police for their limited involvement. For Elly Warren's family, the search for justice has been a grueling and emotional journey marked by frustration and resilience. Her father, Paul Warren, has become the unrelenting voice for his daughter, determined to ensure that her tragic death does not fade into obscurity. Despite the setbacks, Paul has vowed to continue his fight. His resilience has been fueled not only by his love for Elly, but also by his determination to ensure that her story is heard and remembered. "You wouldn't wish this upon any family," he said, "but if it happens, you have to fight. And we'll keep fighting for Elly." The family's fight for justice has become a powerful testament to their enduring love for Elly. It's a story of unwavering determination in the face of systemic failures and international hurdles. They've refused to let her memory be reduced to a series of inconsistencies and unanswered questions. Elly's case remains open, and her family continues to push for accountability from both Mozambican authorities and Australian officials. For them, the fight is about more than justice. It's about honoring Elly's life and ensuring that the truth, no matter how difficult or uncomfortable, is brought to light. Elly Warren's case has left a trail of speculation and haunting unanswered questions. As the details of her tragic death unfolded, numerous theories emerged, each painting a different picture of what may have happened that fateful night near Tofo Beach. One prevailing theory is that Elly may have been the victim of a targeted attack. The witness accounts of her body being staged and the state of her clothing suggest she encountered foul play. Was she followed after leaving her friends that night? Could someone have lured her away under false pretenses? Another possibility points to opportunistic violence. With reports of tourists occasionally being targeted in Tofo, some speculate that Elly may have crossed paths with dangerous individuals. Was she in the wrong place at the wrong time? If so, why has no one come forward with more information despite her family's relentless search for answers? Others consider the role of local corruption and negligence. The private investigation in 2018 unearthed disturbing evidence pointing to police involvement in covering up the circumstances of her death. Could law enforcement have played a role in obstructing justice? What would they have to gain from suppressing the truth? The motive remains another crucial unanswered question. Elly was described as kind-hearted, sober, and full of life that night. Why would someone want to harm her? Was this a random act of violence, or was there something more personal behind it? As you hear these possibilities, you're left to grapple with the same questions that have tormented Elly's family for years. Despite the investigations, inquests, and petitions, no definitive answers have emerged. Theories abound, but the truth remains elusive, buried beneath layers of conflicting evidence and official silence. What do you think happened to Elly Warren? Was it a tragic accident, or was foul play involved? Who could be responsible, and what might have been their motive? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice matters in keeping Elly's story alive and pushing for justice. This story isn't just about Elly, it's about justice, accountability, and the countless families who face similar struggles in seeking answers for their loved ones. Elly's father and mother have fought tirelessly to uncover the truth, refusing to let her memory fade into obscurity. Their resilience is a reminder of the lengths we go to for the people we love. If this story resonated with you, please take a moment to like the video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel. These actions not only help bring attention to stories like Elly's, but also support the ongoing effort to uncover truths and seek justice. Thank you for watching and being part of this journey. Elly's story deserves to be told, and together, we can ensure her light continues to shine.